So I just completed a 30-minute video called Silencing All Survivors that addresses pretty much everything. It addresses criticisms. It addresses my approach. It includes apologies. It includes a call to action on Camden. A little bit of information about everything, but I showed it to some trusted friends and the survivors. Some people loved it. Some people had a few criticisms, and then some people hated it and told me not to upload it. I've got people telling me just talk about the case and nothing else. I've got people telling me just address the criticisms. I've got people telling me just apologize. I feel like I'm being pulled in every which way. And no matter how hard I try, I cannot make everyone happy. I'm trying to prioritize the survivors over myself. But then where do I put the general public in that priority list? It's very difficult. I feel like I'm in an impossible position where I just can't seem to do the right thing. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I can't make all of you happy. I'm sorry to Charlie for dragging him into a case that is not necessarily his fight. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my audience who don't even know what the heck is going on. I'm uploading shorts, I'm doing live streams, I'm doing weird-ass videos, just trying to find the remaining survivors of Camden Gerard Davis. That has always been the goal for this awareness campaign. And while it's worked in some respect, it's also caused a lot of issues. I don't want to cause issues. I want to resolve these issues. I don't want any I don't want beef with anyone. I want to communicate openly. I'm trying to communicate with my peers. And I'm trying to listen to dissenting voices. I'm trying. And I'm trying to listen to voices I trust, too. And every single person is telling me something different. And I don't know what to do. And that's why I've been asking for help. People say, just wait for law enforcement to do something. But we've waited 7 years and they haven't done anything. So we decided to just go public with it and put eyes on him. And people wanted evidence, so we've been inviting people to our little server where we have the evidence. But then people don't want to listen to the survivors when they're in there and just look at the evidence and conclude it's nothing. And people are making all these public attacks, not platforming any of us, not wanting to talk to the survivors themselves. And when people do talk to the survivors, they're getting attacked just because they're transgender. This has been very difficult. And I know if I could have just started with making everything clear from the beginning, maybe this could have all been avoided. And I take accountability for that. I just thought that if people wanted to know what was going on, they would just go to the podcast. And we put the podcast on Spencer's channel to help her build her own platform, because survivors need more than just a voice. They need financial help. They need psychological help. They need medical care. They need a loving family. They need a roof over their head. Survivors need a lot. And I've been trying to provide that. And it's not enough. And it feels like when we reach out for help, people just want to use that opportunity to attack us, to hate on me. It's hard. This is really hard. So let's just start from the beginning. I met Spencer. She told me what happened to her. I told her I was busy with other projects, but if you need me to hand this to someone else, I will. She said, no, I want you. And so a few years later, I finally came back and I was like, okay, are you ready? And we did the podcast. And while I was there listening to her, that's when I realized this is going to evolve into something much more. Like, originally, I just wanted to do a podcast where we platform survivors and they tell their story. But you can't just tell your story anymore. Now you need concrete evidence. Now you need to go to law enforcement multiple times. Now you need to consult with lawyers. Like, we can't just listen to survivors when they're screaming for help. And that's why I've been taking all of these creative, experimental approaches to try to bolster their voice, so that not only can they be heard, but they can be seen and they can be addressed. And I'm sorry to Charlie. I really am sorry. I did not mean to make you upset. We just need help. So, instead of addressing all the random rumors that people make up and responding to criticism and talking about the wrongdoings of other influencers, I'm just going to take accountability for my actions and correct them starting now. Let's just start fresh. First, we need to keep finding the remaining survivors. We know they are out there, and we need help finding them. If you don't want to help, you don't have to. But if you do, please reach out to me. We will invite you to our server where all of the survivors and all of the evidence is growing. Next, we have to wait for law enforcement and multiple law teams who specialize in cult cases. Take this to them, as we have already done, and address it through the proper channels. When that is complete, or if that goes unresolved, then we will drop the full documentary, or at least part 1 of the documentary. Or I guess at this point it would be like part 2 or 3, but we will show you everything. I hope you can all understand my position. We are living in a world where survivors scream for help and no one wants to listen. There are children living in literal hell, and we can't hear them.
That was the night where he had induced my last miscarriage. Like, he had convinced me to have someone bring me to his house. He beat me and then raped me.
But you know, the transformation process is really dangerous on your body, especially because you're young. So from there, she had me like put stuff in my body and told me to pretend it was like his penis. I was 14.
During the midst of it, I tried to scream. I was screaming no and screaming for help. And he put his hand on my throat and choked me and told me that if I kept screaming, he would kill not just me, but my family too. When it was done, he got off of me and he went across the room. And he looked at me, saw me crying, and he said, "What just happened?" And I looked at him and I told him, "You just raped me."
Camden Gerard Davis is a sexual predator and cult leader who victimized hundreds of minors on platforms like Kick and Whisper. He went under a few aliases such as Cade, Quinn, Sincade, Giomara, and Godric, among other possible names. His cult went by the Guild of Divinity, the Daemons, and Eon Syndicate, among other possible titles. Despite being reported to multiple different law enforcement agencies over the past 7 years, they are still active, brainwashing emotionally vulnerable children, predominantly preteen girls, into believing they are supernatural creatures like werewolves and vampires in order to seduce them into illegal activities for monetary profit. We have a growing server of survivors filled with a piling number of evidence that we are saving for law enforcement and legal teams who specialize in complex cult cases. We have been advised to protect this evidence until our work with them is either complete or goes unresolved. However, we are still looking for the remaining survivors who were victimized by this cult, and we are kindly asking for your help to share this message. Notable influencers are invited to join our server if you are interested in helping us. We will continue making videos that promote this message, adapting our approach in response to the evolving environment. Once this phase is complete, we will drop part 1 of the documentary. If you are a survivor of Camden Gerard Davis, please reach out to me. Thank you.